This episode is sponsored by Bigger City. Thank you so much for supporting us and helping our show to grow.
Hello and welcome to the Big Fat Gay Podcast, where we talk about the things that are weighing on our minds. I'm Dan Oliverio, author, public speaker, and chubby chaser, and today I am a happy Sunday boy. It is a lovely Sunday. I don't have 1,000 things on the calendar, but a busy week coming up, so buckle up, babies.
I'm Baby. I'm Trevor Keyson. I'm a super chub, and I'm a sleepy Sunday boy. I slept in, and I had just very intense dreams. So I woke up. I'm like, who am I? What is life? What is reality? I had my coffee and some toast, and I'm ready to go.
Glad one of us is. My name is Michael Willer. I'm a chubby chaser, and I am an excited travel boy because coming up in just a few days, I'm going to be taking a trip to Manchester, which I haven't spent any great amount of time in, so I'm very excited for that.
Wow, Manchester, England.
Yes. Oh, real Manchester.
Across. No, it's a quote from here. Manchester, England, across the Atlantic Sea.
Yes.
Hey, my name's Don. I'm a big chubby guy living here in sunny Hollywood, and today I am plumbing the depths of my being for a few drops of extra energy to wring out for you people.
Goodness gracious, that sounds wet.
I got no sleep last night, so we are waking up and we are channeling our joy and thrill to be alive for all of our listeners.
I'm channeling it with a Gregorian chant, but I've got it playing in the background.
That's my go-to for energy. That Russian boat music.
Okay. We got some in-person energy going on this morning.
We do.
Some chaotic vibes. All right, well, let's dive into it. First up on the menu, we have our 200th episode is coming up in just about a month, maybe a little less than a month from this recording, maybe like 3 weeks. And so we were reaching out to listeners to get voice notes. If you want to record yourself on your phone, you can ask us a question. Our setup for this is we're hoping to get emails and voicemails from listeners talking about what's different about themselves or their lives since listening to the podcast. For example, some people have told us that they've started standing up for themselves at work or helping their workplace become more fat-friendly. Or maybe you've had a new kind of conversation with a friend or a family member. It doesn't have to be directly tied to the podcast, but perhaps there's been some ground taken in your life that you'd like to share with us and by extension, all of the other listeners of the show. So if anything like that occurs to you, feel free to record a voice memo. You can use wetransfer.com to send it to us if it's too large to attach to an email. That email being bigfatgaypod@gmail.com. You are also welcome to write your answers in, but we want to share people's voices if possible.
We also want to say thank you to our Patreons for keeping us rolling. That monthly donation of yours helps keep the lights on over here at our extensive recording studios.
Yeah, and you get access to cool things like behind the scenes videos like the one we just recorded, which was absolute chaos. And Cutting Room Floor, which is just fun little tangents that come out of the episodes but end up on Patreon. We also do mini-sodes on occasion when we remember to do them.
Yes.
Which dive into podcast adjacent topics that don't necessarily make it to air, but are still fun and a little more niche and interesting. So,
yep. And you can also support the podcast by using our affiliate link to purchase a Big Fig or using our promo code at Bearskin, Big Fat Gay Pod, and you can save 15% off your order of some underwear, some cute shorts, some jock straps. Maybe you need a jockstrap for your Halloween costume. There's still time. You can save 15% off.
I'm not sure you're allowed to go out to a gay Halloween party without a jockstrap. I think that's.
And as a reminder, in our next episode that comes out on the 30th, we're going to be talking about the 1985 movie, The Stuff.
The Stuff.
Yes, it is a look at 80s consumerism, diet culture, killer goo. It's a fun time, and you can watch it for free on Plex or Pluto. You can also watch it on Shudder if you have AMC Plus. Also, you can rent it on digital. You can ask your library if they have it on DVD. Whichever way you want to watch it, there's plenty of ways, and you have time because the episode is coming out on October 30th.
And the last thing we want to let people know about before we get into the real episode is that we will be taking a 1-week break. So the week after this episode launches, which will be October 23rd, Dan and I are both out of the country. We're not available to record. So this episode will come out. Then the week following we're skipping. And then we're coming back strong with our Halloween episode on October 30th.
In case you're wondering, I will be in Vienna.
Ooh, getting that sausage.
Yeah.
Wow.
And a little bit of schnitzel.
Oh, God. We're starting off pop culture with a story from E! News about so it's this a book coming out, and they detail the story of Raven-Symone's body being CGI'd thinner on That's So Raven.
Yeah, it's part of the whole book is actually about the rise and fall of all those Disney tween shows.
Yeah.
And they focus on this in particular so Raven-Symone did this amazing episode on That's So Raven about body positivity, about how she was not allowed to go on this modeling thing on the show. The character wasn't, but she breaks through and like all bodies are beautiful. And in the All Bodies Are Beautiful episode, the executives at Disney decided they needed to CGI her body thinner.
Right. The idea being that, as a teenager, you tend to have weight fluctuations. And this was a quote unquote, massive air quotes, a problem on the show before. And they copped to having made CGI adjustments to her look. So one of the executives was very slick in saying it was just her clothing. But ultimately, like in this particular episode, where the whole point was accepting how she looked and that she didn't have to be model thin to walk the runway.
That's unacceptable.
It was unacceptable, literally unacceptable. And they CGI'd her body. It probably wasn't CGI. It was some other kind of visual VFX. But point being, they made her look thinner than actually was true to life.
What year are we talking about, Trevor? I think you have a beat on this.
I was wondering about that.
I want to say maybe like 2003, 2004.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I watched some That's So Raven, and it very much was millennials. It started in 2003 and had 4 seasons. And I actually remember this episode, and like That's So Raven covered a lot of serious issues, kind of like body image and racism, and it did a lot for a Disney Channel TV show. But I also remember there being a lot of like fat suits. And there was an aspect of the show. So for those who've never seen That's So Raven, That's So Raven is about a teen, Raven Baxter, who she's a psychic and she has visions of the future, but it's just like she has a vision of something going wrong. And then it's usually she's trying to prevent it through wacky means and then ends up causing it to happen in trying to prevent it.
And in this way is 100% accurate in her predictions.
Yeah.
Right.
And in doing so, it's so Raven. But like I think it might be the first episode, there's like a whole thing where it's like she's like gonna fail a test and the teacher's gonna want to see her parents, so she like does a kind of like Big Mama's House costume and pretends to be her own grandmother.
Oh,
okay.
And I think there's a fat suit in that, and then I think there's another episode where it's tackling kind of the early aughts like childhood obesity and junk food in schools thing, where I think she has a vision of like herself and like all of her friends fat or something. So it's just very weird because it was definitely a show where, I think just existing as herself, and it was like, oh, it's body positive, but then there was also just weird fat suit stuff sometimes.
I feel like with shows like this, oftentimes, and I feel like we even saw this with that Golden Girls episode we talked about, you get either a guest writer or a writer who hasn't, had a chance to exert their voice in a full episode, like as the lead writer for that episode, picking a topic that, means something to them. And that episode gets to highlight that topic in, more or less full detail, but not necessarily the entire rest of the show. Like that,
right.
You get inconsistencies because more often than not, a writer's room is not really united, and there are people coming and going, and sometimes they have guest writers, and like you will cover things that the rest of the show. And also, I'm curious if they had any awareness that using fat suits was kind of antithetical.
No.
I don't think they even thought about it that
comedy,
way.
Michael.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, this book is exposing the fact that this happened. And when following up with some of the producers for comment, you get like Michael Feldman was one of the producers, and he's like, it was shameful. I don't know how they could look at themselves and do that. And I love that you can hear them deflect. Like Adam Bonnet, who was the former head of the Disney Channel original programming, said that it's not something I would have asked for, but then also simultaneously remembers that technique being used during different episodes. So, like, give me a fucking break. Are you kidding me? Like,
It wasn't me, but I've heard of such things being done on my show.
somebody must defend the Disney executives.
But the book is CGI'd, The Untold Story of the Rise and Fall of Disney Channel's Tween Empire. I don't know. I mean, I have so many books I want to read, but I would almost be curious to this. I almost feel like maybe this is something I would want to listen to as an audiobook because it feels kind of very like intriguing, like a
Insider.
unpacking pop culture.
Because it sounds like a murder podcast.
I mean, yeah,
Right.
Photos of the fat suit on the floor. Post-mortem.
Everything I've heard about those kids shows has been like so depressing, though.
Yeah, it's not great.
I think just kids are a naturally depressing topic, Don.
But that said, I'm really curious to hear about your little excursion. That is our next topic.
Yes. So,
Yeah.
Dan and I have had quite the fat-filled theater couple of weeks. And really at Dan's place of work, the Wallace, they got all the fat theater. It was the fattest night. There was a point. So we went to see Samuel Morrison's Sugar Daddy. And we also saw Nicole Byer. And
Fabulous
there was a point
show.
where both shows were happening in the same building simultaneously. And I felt so powerful.
It was really great. Sam Morrison's show is called Sugar Daddy, and it is about his romance with this bear that he discovers during Spooky Bear, which is a Provincetown event. And they're together. They have a whirlwind romance. They're quarantined during COVID together. And eventually this poor man, the boyfriend, dies of COVID. In the hospital. And the story is about being a chubby chaser, being attracted to these men, but also the going through the grief process and comedy as a reaction to grief, because Sam Morrison is a stand-up comedian, and sort of wrestling with that and going to his gay Jewish support group where he is like younger by 60 years. And just, so it's a really wonderful examination of bear culture and what it means to have a romance that I think there's a wonderful line in, I want to say Sex and the City, where Carrie says, who says that our deepest loves are necessarily our longest loves?
Yeah.
And because Morrison makes the point, like, he had everything, he just didn't have it for very long.
No, Sam Morrison's very funny. You should follow him on Instagram. That's actually how I found out about the show initially, because I've been following him for a few years now. So I actually saw kind of everything in this story play out on social media, which is just very kind of a weird thing to experience. And just seeing the tragedy of it. And then kind of there's other stuff in the show that I don't really want to spoil, but like seeing that go and then seeing him kind of developing some of these stories in his stand-up work when he would like share clips, and then getting to see that this is a show. And by the time this episode comes out, it will have completed its run at the Wallace in LA.
Yeah, they're trying to get it going in New York. They're trying to slot
that'd be
nice
awesome.
production. Yeah.
But yeah, follow Sam Morrison. I think he's Samuel H. Morrison on Instagram. And then Nicole Byer. I mean, Nicole Byer, amazing, hilarious. Just, it was a night of stand-up.
The host of Nailed It.
It was delightful. It was interesting because it was like, okay, so the Wallace Beverly Hills. It's Beverly Hills. It is a lot of just like mostly older straight people, I feel like. Is that fair, Dan?
I think that's probably who goes to theater in the first place. So that could be Beverly Hills or any place else in the country.
But then also like a lot of gay men coming in, and like a lot of like I don't know, chubby guys and bears. And it was just interesting to see these, I don't know, two crowds converging.
I love those.
The streams were crossing, people. The streams were
crossing point audiences. Like, you get the most interesting conversations between people that I went to see a Margaret Cho show in New York, and it was like, there was just this line down the middle where it's gay people to the left, Asian people to the right. And they should not never looked at each other until the intermission. You know?
Wow.
No, there was a very great, I loved it. The audience was mixed, and Nicole said it was mixed, kind of a bit about Ozempic.
Yeah, this made me so uncomfortable because she's doing crowd work, right? If you don't know what crowd work is, it's where the stand-up comedian talks to the audience talks back, they have a little conversation. And so she's doing crowd work about who's on Ozempic.
Ugh.
Yeah, it was uncomfortable, for me at least. I don't know, how did you feel about it?
I found it very satisfying because I think because it was like, okay, who's on Ozempic, and the crowd is silent and no one raises their hands, and she's like, I know all of you are on Ozempic.
Yeah.
We're in Beverly Hills.
and so this brave audience member, for God knows what reason, decides that she's going to be, I'm on Ozempic, and she's a straight sized person as far as we can tell, and she's like, I'm on Ozempic. And Nicole asks her, so why are you on Ozempic? And she says, oh, for fun.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah.
That's what Nicole's reaction was. And that starts another part of the show, like, for fun. And she's like, what was fun? The diarrhea, the bloating, the constipation, which part of that was the fun part? And the woman admitted, she says, I actually don't feel very good right now. And I can't tell in retrospect whether that was because I'm being singled out and made fun of, or because she's on Ozempic and she never feels good.
I am so uncomfortable.
Thank you.
Bit. Look, I get the point she's making, but also that is did the audience stick with her through that?
No.
Did she lose her audience?
Silence. I don't think lose. I think there was laughter. I think there was laughter of recognition about a lot of stuff, but no one was rooting for this to go on. I don't think.
Right.
Trevor, what do you think?
I think it was, I don't agree completely, because I think there was a definite, because there were, a good amount of fat people there. And I think there was a thing of really wanting to confront when it became, it was for fun.
Yeah. We were, by the way, we were telling this episode to a friend of ours who is straight sized and who is on Ozempic. And when we recounted this and we got to the part where the woman says, I'm on it for fun, he goes, oh yeah, me too.
Mm-hmm.
Was he able to explain it better?
I said, I called bullshit, so I didn't let him explain it. I told him, no, that's bullshit. You're on it because you have body dysmorphia. And he's like, well, yeah, but that's
it's a little body dysmorphia as a treat.
Oh, so fun is truly just accepted code for...
No. Fun is, I'm not really willing to have this conversation, and it's trivial and it's fun, It's fun, like when you take up cigarette smoking, Mike. You take it for fun.
For fun.
I just find it interesting that I have never heard that explanation before, and you get two of them in one night. I'm like, that's amazing.
Well, no, he agreed with the former one, to be fair. But that's what was so stunning. Honestly, the best part of that whole bit in the evening was the audience member saying, for fun.
So the thing that makes me uncomfortable about that bit is not the point she's making, because I think it's a very valid point.
Oh, of course it is.
It's more that, if somebody on stage said, hey, everyone in the audience, are you on this medication that I happen to be on? I'm not fucking sharing that. It doesn't matter what it is. I don't want anyone there to know. So yes, I get what she's doing, but also that is actually private information that does not need to be volunteered.
But this audience member volunteered it. I mean, God knows why. I
guess my point is she should not have expected anyone to do, I don't think it's fair for her to expect people to have to stand up and say yes.
Well, no, but that would mean the bit just died, but someone did. As I'm sure that happens every show.
That's incredible.
I think it's also different because I think especially in Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
I think because there is it is so the unspoken secret, but also just people talking about it and talking about it in terms of, oh, well, you should just get Ozempic, or my doctor, got me a semaglutide. You just need to ask your doctor for that. And that it is turning it on its head in a like, I guess I liked the discomfort because it finally made people look at the problematic nature of it and just kind of what it is doing. Because
that's valid. Yeah, I did that.
I think it's difficult because of this adoption of, I'm just going to use it for fun because I'm not happy with my body and I just want to lose 20 pounds. And then that is creating stigma for people who are on it for other reasons, who, like Nicole Byer, she was talking about being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes and just losing all this weight on it and all this stuff she suffered as an effect to treat a medical problem. And that people are just like, oh yeah, well, I just want to lose 20 pounds and I'll just deal with whatever thing because I just can't deal with being a little fat.
Yeah, I mean, it does remind me of the smoking thing where like it is fun to fit in and smoke and look cool. And it is fun to be on Ozempic and be thinner because your life is more fun when you're thinner. Yeah. Everyone knows that.
Yeah.
You know, and doing this routine at Beverly Hills, a place where honestly, if they sold Wegovy out of the back of ice cream trucks around town, they would sell out. Like,
I think you mean, excuse me, there is no ice cream.
They replaced it with Wegovy.
Frozen yogurt.
It's like
it is frozen.
It's
yogurt.
frozen Wegovy trucks. You know,
and the routine she did with the audience member, it was by no means funny. It was highlighting, as Trevor points out. It was like, so what are your symptoms, and how much weight have you lost, and how much longer are you going to be on it? And it's like, yeah, this isn't fun for anybody, but Trevor's right.
Yeah.
You made a point.
Important spotlight.
Yeah.
Congrats to the Wallace for having some fun, engaging fat theater.
Yeah.
And now it's time.
Oh, Eagle, I summon you. Fat Watch 2024.
It came right away.
That's what she said.
Eagerly on time. We're soaring, we're flying. We feel the breeze. This, a listener shared this on Instagram. It is a comedian, Sebastian Connelli, and he is kind of talking about a thing that happens with kind of perceived Halloween costumes on fat guys just wearing different colored shirts.
And I want to know, is this true? So go ahead and listen.
It's Halloween season. As a fat person, if you wear just a plain colored t-shirt, people are just going to assume and paint a costume on you. I can't wear a gray colored t-shirt because everyone's going to think I'm dressed up as Modang. All of October, if I go anywhere in a gray colored t-shirt, someone's going to go, look, it's Modang. Do you know the burden that it is when October rolls around? I have to look at my t-shirts and go, which one can I wear? And people won't assume I'm a costume because I'm fat. Because gray's now gone. Thanks a lot, Modang. Okay. I can't wear gray without people think I'm a freaking hippopotamus. I wore a green shirt once. I was sweating. They go, oh, global warming?
Oh, my God.
I go, okay, at least you're creative with that one.
Oh, I knew there was definitely a thing of like wanting to dress up as your favorite character and like, you're the fat version of that character.
Yeah.
Like there's I didn't realize that this was a thing though.
I cannot dress up as Thor. I can only dress up as Fat Thor.
But what if you're not dressing up at all? Like have you guys come across?
Yeah. Does this happen?
Okay. So I watched this video and I was thinking, no, like that's not a thing. And then it did occur to me. I used to own a bright orange shirt. And I would not wear that shirt during October because everyone would assume I was a pumpkin.
That was my exact, the orange pumpkin. I think also, or like red Kool-Aid man.
But I think it's also, and I'm curious if other people had this experience. Like when I went to school as a little kid, every year they would make group costumes, right? And so like in kindergarten or first grade or something, we all made pumpkin costumes. And the pumpkin costumes we made were basically shirts that were stuffed with leaves. So we were all wearing fat suits as our little pumpkin costumes. And I'm like, God. I don't know about this.
Oh, and really, Don, what's funnier than a fat person in a fat suit? Someone asked Chrissy Metz.
But that burned it into my memory of like, no, I don't want to wear orange in October.
I think it is not just like if during the month of October, if you are in public. But I think if you are in a space where people are in costumes and you are not wearing a costume, it's just like, the pumpkin thing is the thing that is just kind of seared into my head.
Yeah, that's I want more context for this clip. Like, is he talking about being at a place where other people are wearing Halloween costumes and he's not, but people are making the assumption? Or is he truly just walking around and people come up to him at like the grocery store?
Or is he at some sort of stand-up event backstage with a lot of other comics and people are just making fun of people because they're comics?
The clip itself doesn't give any more context for this, but I am curious, and also curious if listeners have had this experience out in the wild. I mean, the pumpkin one, I feel like I've heard that before, and I've also heard avoiding red shirts because Fat Albert. So like, there's definitely some of those classic things that you just don't do, but that's kind of more year round.
And then the you're like, oh, you're fat Thor, you're fat.
Well, okay, look, let me say something about this. It is nobody has a problem when you go to a gay party, you go to a gay holiday event, and like, oh, you're sexy Santa, or the sexy bunny, or there are adjectives that you're allowed to put in front of traditional costumes,
but those are opt-in adjectives.
Are they?
I know. Because the sexy Thor costume is not the same as the regular Thor costume.
You are making a choice.
The sexy Thor costume is making a choice.
If I put on a Santa costume, right, to make it a sexy costume, no matter who I am, I have to make certain choices to designate it a sexy Santa costume. No matter what costume I put on, it is a fat costume, right?
Yeah.
If I Michael put on the sexy Santa costume, I would have my midriff showing and I would be flexing and I wouldn't have the hat.
And to be clear, that is the same way I would have to wear that costume to make a sexy Santa costume, right?
But for Don, nobody would say it's a sexy Santa. They would say it's a fat Santa or just regular Santa.
It depends on the audience, but yes.
If there is a thin person dressed as Wario without like any kind of padding or anything, no one's like, oh, you're skinny Wario, or like you're skinny fat Thor. If you're in like
I wonder if they would, if the character is fat.
No, they wouldn't.
No.
I don't.
All right.
No one would be like, you're a skinny pumpkin.
Nobody would say you're skinny, whatever.
Disney has done thin versions of their fat characters, like Ursula. When they made I think it was a perfume chain, they put out a thin Ursula. To market the perfume. They never called her Thin Ursula. It was just Ursula and she happened to be thin. It doesn't work in the other direction.
Interesting. Okay.
And I think the more, for me, I don't know, this maybe doesn't apply to me directly, but from what I understand and how I view it, like there's no choice. Like if you dress up as Jack Sparrow and you're fat, oh, you're fat Jack Sparrow. You're not just Jack Sparrow. And you happen to be a fat person wearing a Jack Sparrow costume, right? That's my point. So like, you can't get out of the societal view of you as fat, whatever, so that you can just enjoy your favorite character, like fat Luke Skywalker. No, I'm just Luke Skywalker. I have the Jedi costume. I put a lot of work into it. Can't you just see it for what it is? And then I happen to be fat wearing it.
No, I get that. That's
this has been a war cry in the cosplay community for decades. It's just, during Halloween, it applies to all of us.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like if you want to go as fat whoever, that's fine too. I'm Ursula, but not the regular Ursula. I'm the massive Ursula at the end of the movie. Like I'm the huge Ursula. Like that's a choice. You get to be that and exhibit that with.
Actually, that would be kind of awesome. Like just wear the Ursula costume and then have like a small ship costume and like impaled through your midsection.
And just like have like underlighting.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. I would love that.
The seas bend at my every whim.
Like every pool party we've been to, baby.
This does actually dovetail with our main topic for the night of navigating parties during this season can be difficult. If someone walks up to you and says, wow, Don, what a great fat Jedi costume. Like, no, it's just a Jedi costume. How do I respond?
Yeah.
I do.
Oh boy. Let's hear it.
Give me a prompt on what are they dressed as?
They're dressed as Princess Leia. Why not?
I was like, oh wow, are you the ignorant Princess Leia? Because I put a lot of thought into this one. Did you think about how dumb Princess Leia could be?
I know it was a slip of the tongue, but I'm imagining now like saying that, and it's like I put a lot of fat into this.
I know. No, you should do that. I put a lot of fat into this, but did you put a lot of dumb into that?
Now, I find, like, in my experience, Halloween is actually a low slime holiday for me historically. Like, I find just people tend to be so excited about what they're wearing that they're rarely going to be insulting or cruel about other people's costumes. People tend to be in a good mood.
And when they are, it's usually out of, ignorance. Like, I don't know that character. And so
ignorance or alcohol.
So what do you know? Yeah, like, what are you supposed to be? I mean, if I went to a Halloween party, if I went to most cosplay parties, I would spend most of the evening saying, I have no idea who you are.
But that said, so Halloween parties and parties in general can be problematic, if you're hosting a wide variety of body types. If you are an alternative body type in a space where they've decided to put all their little knicknacks out on tables right at the edge, while you're wearing big flowy costumes, not a personal pet peeve of mine at all.
All the decorations that stick out at weird angles.
Dude, I become a bull in a china shop. It's just sad.
So basically what you're saying is that you become Thanos.
Yes, I am the destroyer of all knickknacks. 50% of all your knicknacks will be removed by the end of the night.
Yeah,
but it's a random 50%, so it's fair.
Yeah, exactly.
But like when you're hosting for bigger people or a mix of people, or you are a bigger person attending a party, what are some of the things you should keep in mind? What are some of the things that you should keep an eye out for? How do you make the experience better for everyone involved?
I mean, there was one thing that you brought up, Don, of the size-friendly seating, but you have like 2 chairs and a thin person's like, I'm going to just sit in this chair and I'm going to be so cute and tiny, and just like a little hamster climbed up on the chair.
Or they don't think of thin people. Look, thin people do not think about where they sit ever.
Yeah.
Unless it's in proximity to somebody else,
Yeah. So what do you do when the thin person has taken the chair in the room that is safe for you?
Right.
Yes, Dan, I see you raising your hand.
He has his hand raised very politely.
No, I think there's I wanted to get into this with you, Don, because I think as the host, granted, as the host, you're doing a lot of things, so you may not see this. For example, if a fat friend came up to a party, and we do have fat friendly seating, but if a thin person's sitting there, if the fat friend came up to me and says like, gosh, there's nowhere for me to sit, of course I would move a thin guest off of a fat chair. Of course I would do that. You were talking about, when we were doing this on the call, you were talking about how you would do this yourself. So I'm dying to know how you would do this yourself.
I have zero expectations of the host doing that. I don't think of that as being a host's duty.
Of course it is.
I just don't think of it that way. I brought this butt to your party. So I should probably, take some ownership of my butt. And so in the past, I have gone up to parties and say would you mind moving? I feel like I'd be more comfortable in that chair. I will say it outright, because then they have knowledge of it and we don't have to have that discussion again in the future. Yeah. And everyone there now knows, and it's not a secret, right? It's not a secret. I have a big butt. It requires a little extra surface area.
I would, yeah.
I don't love doing this. Let me be clear. I don't love doing this, but I feel like I have to do it.
I would suggest that you go to the host. The host has a number of ways they can do this in different ways. A host can say directly, like I just suggested, like, oh, hey, why don't you and Don trade seats? Or they can be really super subtle if they've got a problem with that. And they're like, oh, Kimmy, come help me in the kitchen. And that gets Kimmy out of the chair, and then you can sit there.
Fucking Kimmy. If only she would be a little more self-aware.
We don't even invite her anymore.
I mean, I know we're joking, but you invoke the name Kimmy and it just speaks to someone that's like,
it does.
It's a rake woman.
Who's pencil thin? Who's pencil thin?
It's a good name.
She's the one dressed as Skinny Wario.
But no one will say anything.
Sexy Wario.
So I'm curious of another thing that I feel like I haven't really encountered a lot, but if people are being like kind of gross, like, oh, I'm so bad having this fun size Snickers, but it's Halloween.
Like the sliming, the microaggression sliming of food shame about candy. And the thing that's insidious about that is they are having the candy.
Yeah.
They're indulging themselves. And it's like, God.
Well, because they are dressed as Skinny Wario and, famous Glutton.
Is this the episode title now?
Skinny Wario, famous glutton.
I like to slap the candy bar out of their hand and replace it with a piece of broccoli from the crudité plate.
Oh, I love that.
If you're questioning the value of that candy, you are undeserving of that candy.
There's also the really super aggressive thing of like, oh, I'm being so bad having that. Yes, you are. Are you sure you can afford that?
There's
Get out.
There's a college humor sketch where it's like the James Bond style League of Villains where they're introducing each other of like, this one created this toxic gas that killed millions, and this one is a famous war criminal, and this one is cheating on her diet, and she's bad. She's so bad.
I love that. That is freaking amazing.
That's Kimmy. That's how Kimmy came one year.
That's Kimmy. Fucking Kimmy. I have a tip for hosts. Crank your air conditioning.
Yeah. Before they get there, before anybody gets there.
Yeah. Even if it's cool outside, opening the windows is not typically sufficient. Certainly not for where we live. And you got to remember, not only are there lots of people there, but they're wearing costumes. I mean, we are talking about, face paint. Like, this doesn't just have to be Halloween parties. We're also talking about like family gatherings later in the holidays, but particularly for Halloween, crank your air conditioning. It's just for an evening. It's not going to make you go broke, and it will be huge for your guests, particularly the ones that because all your skinny Kimmy can put something on if she gets a little chilly.
Exactly. Yeah, I think air conditioning is great. And, people may not have powerful air conditioning, or they may have no air conditioning. No. But for me, like I am almost always overheated. And the thing that makes such a vital difference to me is not as much the temperature, but the air circulation. If the air is stagnant, I don't care if it is 68
with that 100%.
I don't care if it is 68 degrees. If the air is not moving, I'm in this envelope of hot, humid air. And so just something that keeps the air moving is such a godsend. And by the way, the part of the air conditioner's job is to get rid of humidity, which helps people sweat less. And it's just a good thing.
Yeah, God, I'm thinking of like all the Chicago, it's cold outside. So you have all your like winter stuff, and it's Thanksgiving, so you have a cute sweater, and you have to you're climbing to your relative's third floor apartment or something, and you get in, and it's just so hot.
It's 80
and you're
degrees.
like, oh my God, and you're just trying to peel everything off.
No,
and it's just so hot, and then like you have to go say hi, and like you go into the kitchen, and it's even hotter in the kitchen.
All right. Well, what other things can hosts do to make their spaces better and more accessible for fatter guests at a party?
This is Halloween specific, and I mentioned it in the opening a little bit, but like during Halloween, people love to decorate with like lots of knickknacks and things around the house. Christmas is another thing like this too. Now, I'm usually going to be wearing a new set of clothing that I'm unfamiliar with, often with lots of dangly bits off of it, loose, flowy, often. So I am going to be drifting through your home with many knickknacks, with things that are going to be dragging them behind. I'm going to be trawling through your house for souvenirs is what's going to be happening. So my suggestion is, if you're doing all those little knickknacks, don't do everything right up to the edge of tables and surfaces. Keep things a little bit recessed, because people have stuff coming off of them during this holiday.
As an alternative, Dawn, have you considered being 1980s Catwoman? So just everything's all packed tight and just.
So you mean fat Catwoman?
Yes, fat woman.
Yeah, I'm going to go shrink wrapped as the Gimp this year.
Alternative, you could just lean into it and dress up as a Katamari Damacy and just have like duct tape stuck around you and just pick up all of the knickknacks and things that you run into and become bigger and bigger over the course of the night.
Something I'm going to pitch this to all of our listeners. I'm putting this out into the world. Install a bidet.
Yes.
Just if you want to.
They'll never leave though, Trevor. They'll never leave.
Yeah. If you want to, I don't know, be a trendsetter, have people excited to go to the bathroom at your house.
And by the way, in case you think he's talking about like going out and buying a $500 porcelain fixture, no, it is a $20 to $40 attachment you put on the toilet seat.
Yeah, it's so simple and cheap.
You could also decorate your toilet seat as a cauldron.
Well, we kind of do that.
Yeah, they have a light. They have a whole light show. If you walk into their bathroom at the wrong time, it will just be like red.
Yeah,
like it looks like you walked into hell to use the toilet.
Welcome to Hell's Bowl.
It is. It turns. Well, the thing is though, it changes colors. So when you walk in, it's white and illuminated, but as you pee, it becomes redder and redder.
But it's a very good Halloween look.
I have discovered being colorblind. When I walk into a bathroom that is lit with that kind of light, I can't see anything.
Oh no.
I have a suggestion for hosts. And I feel like this should apply to any kind of party. Just don't make your guests take their shoes off.
No.
Just
oh God, no. Oh God,
just
no. I didn't know
make
people
your guests take this.
Do people do that at costume parties?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
I don't know about costume parties specifically that I've been to, but taking your shoes off at somebody's house is polarizing, and some people do require it. And I think that's
you know what's funny is,
tough.
we have shoes by the front door because that's where we keep extra shoes because that way I don't have to run upstairs to get Trevor's shoes.
Mm-hmm.
And people assume that we're that household. And the number of people who automatically take off their shoes because they see shoes. I'm wearing shoes when I answer the door. Trevor's usually not got shoes on. But the point is it's remarkable how people will opt into the de-shoement. Even though I'm wearing shoes, and even if I say, they'll say like, oh, do you want me to take off my shoes? And I say, no, you don't have to. They'll take them off anyway.
Yeah, I'm one of those. I'm more comfortable without my shoes on anyway. So when I see shoes by the front door, I see it as feel free to take your shoes off.
I'm stunned because usually a fat guy thing is like, once I get them on, I'm not taking them off till they come off.
Yeah.
Right.
I feel like shoes constrain my feet and they make my feet too hot. So I want them gone.
Well, to me, it's a matter of, is it more cost to keep them on or to put them on again later?
And if you do have, a spot for people to take their shoes off, maybe get one of those like 3-foot long shoehorns where you can, really long ones where you don't have to bend. What is even the point of the little tiny shoehorn, the little short one?
Well, because they're portable, you can put them in your.
It's more for dress shoes too, and
it's for dress shoes. No, but the long ones were originally meant for boots.
Well, they work great for shoes where you don't want to have to lean all the way over.
Well, that's what I have. Mm-hmm. And also there's two kinds. There's one where it's flexible at the bottom, which is really great for boots, but terrible for sneakers. And then there's the one I have upstairs, which is just a very long shoehorn, which is inflexible, which is perfect for, regular shoes that aren't boots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anything to kind of help smooth the process of getting through some kind of threshold, whether it's a choke point in the walkway or going from inside to outside, any of those places are potentially spots where anyone, but particularly I think for fat people who are having to kind of navigate, are going to potentially get caught. And so if you can smooth those transitions out as much as possible, don't have to take your shoes off. Great, easy. I'm in the door and I can go mingle instantly. I think that kind of stuff is really, really helpful.
Yeah. I think the thing that thin people forget is that very fat people cannot see the ground underneath them, nor the ground even 4 feet in front of them, depending on how fat they are. But, so you think the step is perfectly obvious. No, they saw it 6 feet ago, but when they get up to it, they can't find it.
Oh yeah. If you have everything really darkly lit and there's any tripping hazards, either get that shit out of the way. That's a really good point.
And it's also why a lot of fat people fear going downstairs more than going upstairs. Oh, going upstairs is more of an effort, but finding that first step, you're just going by feel.
Yeah.
Oh God. So when the Nicole Byer show, so the theater it was at, steps were carpeted and they were also just kind of staggered in a weird way. And the carpet it was lines, columns. So it was hard to tell where the stairs were.
The way it was, they had, every step had a wider stripe than the thinner stripe not near the edge of the step. So it just looked like you were going down a ruler and you couldn't, it was a little hard. And for someone like Trevor, where it's like, I'm guessing where the goddamn step is anyway.
I was clutching onto that handrail for dear life because I'm like, I don't know how many steps I'm going to need to take. And I don't want to start, tumbling and going full Katamari and just taking the rest of the audience with me.
Any other little, I mean, we're in our tip. We're at our tip at this point. If we're done, is there any other tips?
Just the reminder to watch the stuff for our upcoming episode for free on Plex or Pluto or on Shudder if you have AMC Plus.
And it is the one from 1985. I think there might be.
Because it was so popular, they had a remake?
No, it's just a different movie called The Stuff.
Yeah, it's unrelated.
Well, for a bit today, I thought we would go through some of the more famous parties throughout history and examine why some of them have been remembered for centuries and, for some cases, thousands of years.
Like the Whig Party in England?
No. We've all forgotten about them already. We've actually talked about this particular festival once before on the show. In ancient Egypt, there was literally was called the Festival of Drunkenness, which was an epic party celebrated with food and wild orgies, but more than anything else, it was focused on, surprise, drinking. In fact, the entire goal of the event was to make people pass out completely from alcohol. That was how you knew you had celebrated it.
I had no idea that frat parties went that far back in history.
Exactly. So,
I mean, that's why they're named after Greek letters.
Because of the Egyptians.
What was the Festival of Drunkenness supposed to honor in ancient Egypt? 1, it was to celebrate Ra's victory over the underworld. 2, it was to celebrate Ra saving mankind from an angry goddess by slaking her thirst for blood by getting her drunk. 3, to thank Ra for giving mankind the secret of alcohol. Or 4, it was a non-religious holiday that marked the beginning of the new brewing season, so you could drink all of the leftover alcohol from the last season.
Oh. I'm going to go with thanking Ra for the gift of alcohol. Because I think the Greeks had something like that too.
Yeah, that makes the most sense, even though it's the least interesting.
Yeah.
It makes the most sense, so it's probably the most wrong.
Are you on that for 2, Trevor?
I'm going to be different because I was thinking 2 or 3, so I guess I'll go with 2. The bloodthirst,
getting the goddess drunk. The correct answer is, in fact, number 2.
I know it.
God damn it.
According to legend, Ra saved mankind from a raging goddess Hathor by giving her 6,000 containers of alcohol that had been dyed red to confuse her and think she was drinking the blood of mankind.
Oh my God.
I'm going to try that at my next frat party.
We need to start making Trevor guess first.
Trevor's guessing last from now on. All right. In ancient Rome, a lot of the Roman emperors are sort of legendary party throwers. Emperor Nero is probably the most notorious of all of them, though. He was said to be a party animal and said he is fact to have thrown some of the most debauched parties Rome has ever seen. He was famous for offing guests during his parties for real or imagined slights. So you can bet his guests were on their best behavior.
Offing is in killing?
Killing. Yeah, he killed many of his party guests over the years.
Okay, lovely.
In fact, there were only a few reasons why you were allowed to step out of the room during Nero's dinner parties. Which of the following was not an acceptable reason to leave Nero's table?
To take off your shoes.
1, to vomit in order to make room for more food. 2, to have sex. 3, to defecate. Or 4, all 3 of these were actually acceptable reasons to leave Nero's table.
4, yeah. No, clearly, because the vomitoria were legendary in late Rome.
4.
Unless because I don't think they want you to defecate there.
I'm going to say having sex was not an acceptable reason to leave.
All right. So we've got 2 for number 4, 1 for number 2. But in fact, the correct answer is to defecate, number 3.
You weren't allowed to defecate.
That was not an acceptable reason to leave Nero's dinner parties.
You could throw up, but you couldn't take a shit.
That's me like, I'm going to go throw up.
No.
Well, no, you would have to go to the vomitorium to throw up.
Well, the vomitorium was not actually a place to vomit. The vomitorium was it's the front of an amphitheater.
That is another definition.
Yeah.
I mean, those are
I
two different
believe
things.
that was an urban myth, but we'll have to look that up at another time. Because right now, we're going to move on to England, where Edward Russell, First Lord of the Admiralty and one of the architects of the Glorious Revolution, threw a party for his officers in the garden of his Covent Garden house in 1694. Determined to put on a show, he reportedly drained the fountain of his home and filled it with what? 1. The blood of the courtiers of the recently deposed king. 2. Champagne stolen from the King of France. 3. Brandy, Malaga wine, sugar, lemon juice, and nutmeg. Or 4. Gold-infused champagne.
I think champagne stolen from the French.
I want to go with champagne stolen from the French. But of course, Trevor.
We're just repeating history here.
Yeah, I know.
I'm going to say number 3.
We got 2 champagnes and 1 brandy. And in fact, the answer is the fountain was filled with 250 gallons of brandy, 125 gallons of Malaga wine.
God damn it.
1,400 pounds of sugar, 2,500 lemons, and 5 pounds of nutmeg.
Trevor, you were there, weren't you?
Making it a very large and hugely expensive cocktail. Apparently, they erected a canopy over the fountain so it wouldn't get watered down when it rained. And it took a week to drain the fountain dry.
Well, they obviously didn't have enough people.
All right.
You know, the dregs of that were just like super gross.
Any of it. Come on.
All right. Food has long been seen as a tool of diplomacy and harmony. It's believed that breaking bread with someone is a gesture of peace and solidarity. A legendary banquet hosted by Emperor Kangxi for his 66th birthday is seen as the birth of culinary diplomacy. At the time, China was struggling with factionalism between ethnic groups. As the government positions traditionally held by the Manchu were beginning to be taken over by the Han, there was a palpable sense of discontent. In order to try and improve relations between the two groups, the emperor decided for his birthday, his feast would be used for this very purpose. What made this feast so remarkable? 1. There was no food served during the feast, only inedible treasures made to look like dishes of food, but made of gold and precious gems. 2. There were so many dishes made that it took 3 days to eat them all. 3. The main course consisted of the roasted body of an emperor's advisor who had counseled him to execute a Han counselor. Or 4. All of the courses consisted of sweets and desserts, encouraging greater sweetness and cooperation between the Manchu and the Han.
I kind of like the first one, but
I'm torn between 1 and 4, but I want to go with 4 just because it's like I don't know. It's like my little kid fantasy of like it's all dessert.
Yeah, the world's first royal dessert binge.
Doesn't 1 just fully contradict the setup?
Maybe. What's 2 again, Don?
There were so many dishes made that it took 3 days to eat them all.
Yeah, I like that.
Oh no. I was going to agree with you, but that's gone poorly twice already. Fine. I won't learn my lesson.
It's not that Trevor gets it right, it's that I get it wrong.
And then
So the two of you are going for 3 days to eat it all. Trevor, which one are you going with?
Yeah.
The just desserts.
If Trevor's right, I quit.
All right. Well, the correct answer is, in fact, there were so many dishes, it took 3 days to eat them all.
Yeah, finally.
Yep. So
We
this
broke
is
the
actually,
cycle. We'll never get another one wrong.
this is considered to be the birth of culinary diplomacy, an actual term that exists today, because it took so long to eat all the food that they were forced to talk during this period. And apparently it worked. So, dear listener, do you have any tips on what to do for a 3-day dinner party? Trevor, where can they tell us about them?
Well, we're on Instagram and Twitter as @BigFatGayPod. We're on Facebook as the Big Fat Gay Podcast. Leave us a review or 5 stars on there or your preferred podcast platform. Support us on Patreon at patreon.com/BigFatGayPod. You can see the articles we talk about at www.bigfat.com. Maybe.
Well done.
Nail it.
Well, maybe you're at the Big Fat Gay Halloween party you filled your cape with fun size Snickers, and you're going to park to start digging in. But god damn it, Kimmy's in your seat.
Watch out, Kimmy, you bitch.